Hey, who wants one of those new blueprints? You want the, does anyone here want the, whatchamacallit there, the Rascal blueprint?
Yes, yes,
Here you go, bud.
yes.
All yours.
Wow, a
Sorry?
hatch key? I got a hatch key I could give you.
Nah, man, enjoy your stuff, man. I have hatch keys. I
Okay,
find them all the time, too. I'm just wanting to help. That's all I
alright,
like to do. Enjoy, man.
thanks.
Most people play games. I've spent years breaking them. Let's look at why modern games won't shut up and let you think. If you hand me a controller, it takes me like 5 minutes to figure out the mechanics of the game. I don't say that to brag, it's just the reality of spending over a decade working as a professional game tester. I've tested everything from PC and consoles to VR and mobile apps. My brain is hardwired to understand how a game wants me to move before the opening cinematic even finishes. But do you want to know what I do the second a game gives me control? I don't follow the waypoint, I don't listen to the narrator, and I immediately try to break the tutorial. Seriously, I run backwards, jump into walls, spam inputs during cutscenes, and try to sequence break the opening level. And I've broken a lot of tutorials over the years, probably pissing off a lot of developers at work. I do it, honestly, because it's my job, but modern game intros make me feel a little numb. It feels less like stepping into a living, breathing world and more like sitting through a boring-ass meeting I'm forced to be in. And the more I talk to other gamers, the more I realize I'm not alone. We live in an era where games seem terrified of letting a player be quiet and think. The moment you step into any room, a UI marker flashes on the exact brick you need to pull. If you stand for more than 10 seconds, your character starts talking to themselves, blurting out the solution to a puzzle you haven't even friggin' looked at yet. And the best example I can think of right now is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I love that game, it's a great game, but man, it's not perfect. Fi would constantly interrupt the gameplay to give you solutions before you even had a single second to process what was happening. And the worst part, every single time you booted up the game and picked up an item, even a basic one you found 100 times, the entire game would stop dead in its tracks just to show you a text box explaining what it was. It drives you crazy because it feels like the game thinks you're a freaking moron. So it begs the question, when did gaming shift from an adventure into a rigid hand-holding checklist? To understand what we lost, we have to look at what we used to have. I'm a 90s kid. I grew up playing games like Metroid, Mega Man, Castlevania. Those games didn't have a tutorial level. They didn't have a companion character hovering over your shoulder. They just threw you into the deep end and said, good luck, and boom, you had to figure everything out on your own. And back then, there were no save files in a lot of those games. If you died, you didn't reload from a checkpoint. You started over from the very beginning of the level with absolutely nothing. At first, that shit felt horrible. You'd get all the way to the end of the level, make one mistake, and watch your progress vanish. But a funny thing happens when a game forces you to deal with that kind of repetition. You stop being afraid of dying. Dying didn't seem so bad anymore because the repetition forced you to actually pay attention to the environment. You started seeing the patterns. You learned when the enemy was going to spawn or that the trap was going to be sprung. Eventually, the time it took you to get back to where you died took no time at all because you had mastered the space. The frustration sucked in the moment, but finally overcoming it made it all worth it. You weren't just clearing a level, you were gaining understanding. So, how did we go from Castlevania refusing to say a single word to Skyward Sword never shutting the hell up? As a tester, I look at this question a little differently than most because of the specific way I work. I'm a third-party contract tester. That just means I don't work directly for any single studio like Sony or Ubisoft. Instead, I get contracted out to different gaming studios for their projects. And when a game is done, I move on to a completely different studio with a completely different team. I prefer this because it gives me a massive bird's eye view of the entire industry. One month I'm testing a massive console RPG, the next I'm on a mobile app, or I'm testing unreleased VR tech. I've seen thousands of brilliant ideas begin, and I've seen just as many get shelved to never be heard of again. And when you look at the industry from that high up, you realize the shift away from the figure it out mentality all comes down to one thing: money. That's just the reality. Gaming started in the arcades. Arcade cabinets were intentionally designed to be unbeatable because their entire business model was built around gobbling up your quarters. When those same developers started making games for the early home consoles, they brought that brutal arcade DNA with them because that's just how they knew how to design games. But evolution happens. As console and PC gaming grew, creators realized that if the public is going to spend their hard-earned money to buy a game and play it at home, they're eventually going to want to actually finish it, right? On top of that, the diehard generation that grew up with those brutal arcade games eventually grew up. They got jobs, families, and responsibilities. They didn't have the time to repeat the same level for 3 weeks. So to keep the hype train moving and bring in the next younger generation of players, the industry pivoted. Maybe consider a little pivot over to the like button and subscribe for more tester stories and insights. They did the complete opposite of what I grew up with. They gave us tutorials for days to make sure the barriers to entry were completely gone. It kept sales up and it worked beautifully, but it came at a cost. When a game is over-designed with tutorials and aggressive handholding, it does something to the soul of the experience. When I'm testing a game like that, it can feel really freaking hollow. It might have beautiful graphics, great audio, and all the psychological triggers designed to give me a quick dopamine hit, but it still feels kind of soulless. Instead of exploring a world, I feel like I'm just running through a script. Launch game, main menu, start opening sequence, begin tutorial 1, complete tutorial 1, start level, tutorial break, finish level, tutorial break. Like, come on, let me play. Now, it's very easy to sit on the internet and complain about how gaming has changed. It's easy to say the developers don't listen to us or they think we're dumb. But how I see it, I can tell you that's not true. Developers are incredibly smart, and they know exactly how smart and capable the gaming community is. They aren't treating you like you're stupid because they want to. I think the missing piece of this equation that a lot of people overlook is that developers and testers are not the business folk. We are an industry that is incredibly massive, and at the end of the day, big business dictates the design. A multi-million-dollar project's primary job is to make money and protect its investment, not to make every single veteran gamer happy. Publishers are terrified that if a casual player gets stuck or confused for even 5 minutes, they will close the game, log off, and never buy a battle pass, a DLC, or even a sequel. So, the tutorials and the yellow painted ladders aren't there because the devs think you're dumb. They're there as a financial shield for the business. Change is inevitable. Everything changes, and gaming had to grow up to become the massive industry it is today. But every time a game refuses to let us fail, it strips away the magic that made video games special in the first place. The fun wasn't just seeing the ending. It was in the text message you sent your buddy saying, "Hey, I finally beat that level." It was the feeling of being completely lost, looking at the environment and realizing the answer was staring you in the face the entire time. We don't need games to play themselves for us. We just need the space to breathe, to fail, and to figure it out on our own. Remember, I can't tell you where I've been, but I can tell you what I've learned. Have a good one, gamers, and I'll see you in the next one.